we go.
Hey everyone, Yan Chow here. Tonight, the lovely, the mistress of the macabre, the
Ooh, I like that.
the founder of Feindish, Renee
Sure.
Draws.
Well, the creator.
Creator.
My company is called Hellion Arts. So
There we go.
yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
So you have been having a busy month.
I have, yeah, and we're not even that far into the month. I've been having a busy couple of weeks in general. It's been fun.
So I think the question that is most on everyone's mind: how has that green beard been working for you? And how many new fans have you gotten because of it?
I don't know how many new fans I've gotten. I know people. It's really divided, the viewership. People
Really?
either all love it, or I feel like there's more like one person or two people specifically who always want me to put it on, and that pisses everybody else off. But I'm like, dude, I'm here to role play. Sorry. But yeah, it's all about playing the characters. So I'm sure some people find Lady in the Green Beard sexy, and I'm cool with that.
I was kind of wondering, like, how many people are you getting that are like Pathfinder or role-playing fans versus like how many guys with a fetish are showing up?
I don't know, like the green beard fetish is well known. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, it gives me views, so I really don't care. It would be better if I was monetized, but I'm not. YouTube, fix that, please.
So you have recently passed 1,000 subs, which congratulations.
Thank you.
And so you're in the process of getting monetized, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just running into problems with it. It's like, well, it keeps on glitching basically. So I have the view hours and everything as well, but it when it's trying, like the second step, when it's trying to make you have to apparently read the terms and conditions and like YouTube's terms of services and all that, and I read everything and I check the boxes, and then it keeps on rejecting my application. I'm like, but why? I have the AdSense account. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not gonna bore you guys with the details, but yeah.
Yeah, I know it takes people a while. I remember if you know Clint Stoker, Sweetcast.
Yeah.
When he passed 1,000, it took him months, I think.
Oh my gosh, I hope it's not months.
But he's there. He's there, and the good news is you stream a heck of a lot more than he does. So I think you'll probably have more numbers coming in soon.
Well, all I do is stream. I don't do short videos, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's what I like doing.
I don't know. I hear different things. A lot of people say it's streams for the hours, but short videos for the content or for the subs. I don't know if that's true. I think these days I get more subs from streams than I do from short videos.
It depends. I think honestly, consistency is the most important, because once you cultivate a viewership, they know what to expect when they come to your channel. That's the most important thing. And when you say you're going to stream every Wednesday, you stream every Wednesday.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So.
All right. So getting back to the role playing here for a second. So were you dressing up before you started a stream of your games? Because you've been playing Pathfinder for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a few years. So was I dressing up before? No, I wasn't. So our private games, I feel like we play differently from. I've only played a couple of other D&D campaigns with other groups, and I feel like we're much more like. I haven't played Pathfinder with any other groups, but we're like very strict. If you can't tell from the play style from my streams, but in our private games, we're even more like by the rules and kind of no nonsense. And we really get into the role playing, because it's all about playing the character. Mm-hmm. And if your character screws something up, then we're just gonna roll with it, So we're one of those groups where we're okay with a character that causes trouble for the group. If that's the character you want to play, like we're okay. We're not going to tell anyone you can't build a character of this race or you can't play an evil character. We're open to almost anything, and so that's just how we are. But back to your actual original question of dressing up. No, we've been playing online because we're all in different countries, but it like dressing up hasn't really been a thing. And honestly, I've never really been into dressing up. Like I never really. Never really got cosplay or anything, but for the stream, we're trying to entertain the viewers. Yeah, so that's why me and AC got our beards, our lady beards.
Yeah, I did notice that was one thing I noticed, that it was only the ladies who dressed up.
Well, it just was a total coincidence. Nick does his like little GM crown thing, but Chris builds like a mushroom hat, but he doesn't wear it every session because apparently it doesn't fit over his like headphones. I should tell him to get earphones or something.
So Buddy Lord says, but they do accents in beards, the essentials.
Yes, exactly. Yes. The most important things. But yeah, it was just total coincidence that the women on the group, we just happen to play the characters with prominent beards. So we're like, we're gonna have to build beards. It's great.
So you are not only a player. Well, first of all, have you ever DM'd or you've only been a player?
I've only been a player. Yeah, okay. Which I'm a little surprised myself by that, and I think I would enjoy DMing, but I'm just too busy. And to me, my comic and writing this story and building the world, that is like me DMing and playing a whole campaign on my own. So and that's
a lot of work.
Yeah, that's how my brain views it sometimes, and that's a lot of work already. So I don't really have the time. I think I would really enjoy DMing though. So maybe someday, I'm open to running a module in our group to just test it out, but not so far.
So as a multi-creative, someone you are a storyteller more in the comic visual world, but do you find that that by role playing these characters, does that influence the way you write your stories at all?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like for me, when I'm writing stuff, like a lot of times I will sort of test characters out like in an RPG setting, because then I can play those characters out. So like when I have to write them, it's much easier to write, like if I know how this guy, treat someone who talks down to a waitress, or if he's got haggle for something, or just like sort of getting in the character's head makes it easier for me to write when I'm writing things out.
I see what you mean. I actually don't. I have like all my characters statted out, but I haven't played specifically my Feindish characters in Pathfinder, even though just because I'm a big tabletop fan, I've like, as if the trading cards for my campaign on the back, there are Pathfinder stats and character sheets for all the characters and also the monster, but I actually haven't played any of them in the game, though. The Casimir is my main character, is loosely quite similar to a character like in a pretty major campaign that we played, and I'm pretty aware of that. But it's not. I haven't actually played these characters in Pathfinder, though. What I did realize, and the reason I liked Pathfinder and I latched onto it so much, is because I realized that it helped me have a huge breakthrough with my writing, because naturally, and this is something I struggled with all through college, and I went to college for animation and comics. I majored in sequential art, which is comics and storyboarding, and I minored in animation, but they focus a lot on visual storytelling and the craft. So like drawing things, perspective, which all that is important, and visual storytelling especially is one of the most valuable things I learned in college, and it's really hard to just kind of learn it on your own. But they didn't really teach writing, so it's kind of coming out of college. I felt like I was given a skill set of, I can draw something from someone else's script, but I haven't really learned to write. And I think just growing up reading stuff like Dinotopia, and I've read a lot. I read a lot of novels growing up, and I've always been really into fantasy and stuff. But I never really learned like story structure, you know. And I would write, but I would write like most things I write. I was really good at world building and coming up with this is how the world functions, and like I do like cut open drawings of buildings and ships when I was little. So I was like thinking of structures and how things technically worked, but like not so much like a a story and a conflict and a character journey. Never that didn't come naturally to me. And I feel like playing role-playing games gave me a big breakthrough towards how to get in the head of a character who's not yourself, and play out what their challenges and their wants would be in a natural way. So and that's why I think in our group we're all are mostly comic artists, and we're all artists, and that's kind of like the unifying goal, sort of. It's not like we're playing this game just to, we're playing the game because we like hanging out and because it's fun. But I think we all latched onto it, and we're all pretty aware of the reason we latch onto this game is because we enjoy storytelling, and this has helped us become better at our craft. So it's like a fun hobby that also helps us become better comic artists and writers.
Yeah, I think so too. And one of the other things I noticed about your group is there are a large number of bilingual people in the group. And I was kind of wondering too. For anyone who doesn't know, I believe you speak Mandarin and probably Taiwanese as well as English. So you know how like it's really hard to translate from one to the other, but like if you want to speak Chinese, nothing English goes in your head. It's just all Chinese. And if you're speaking English, it's all just English, right? Do you sort of get that way with your characters where like you stop thinking as RENIE, but you think as Gillard?
Yeah. I think in our streams, it's not as high investment of a campaign, and it's just because in our as we've played like 6 or 7 sessions now, and I feel like I'm getting more into the heads of the characters because we kind of we built the whole module to be like a shorter module, a shorter campaign. So none of us really went that deep into like character psychology and their background and stuff. But still, like when I'm playing Gillard, it's not really me thinking. It's the character, and especially the characters that I play in my main campaign. When I'm playing them, it just happens instantaneously. So like I am this other person, and I don't know. It's magical. I feel like it's when I first started. First read a work or like a novel from someone else's perspective is the same thing. It's like you're just another person right now.
Yeah, I think so. So
sorry about the dinging. I don't know what my computer's doing. My gosh.
No problem.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna turn that off. I'm sorry.
It's all right. So Buddy Lord says, I wanted to make an ongoing game that made an RPG game out of people's comics in order to present them to the public in a fun narrative. I think that'd be pretty cool. So Buddy, are you talking about something like Kingdom Hearts or more like Dungeons and Dragons?
I'm back.
If he's still here.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So, I was watching your draw stream on Wednesday, and something that struck me is very interesting. You mentioned some feelings about art school.
Yes. Did I? I don't remember what I talk about ever. We talk for like 3 hours. But yeah, I have thoughts about art school. Let's go into it.
So, what was your experience in art school? Was it good for you, not good for you?
I think from where I was coming from, which was specifically someone who isn't from America. I moved to America alone for art school, so I didn't really have know anything about the industry here. I had to
Mhm.
start from scratch on my own. Um, for and at that time, because now this is dating me, but this is before there were so many online resources to learn art. It was
Mhm.
like mid 2000s. So for that time and my specific circumstance, I think art school served me well. But I don't I never felt like I always say I don't feel like I needed to graduate, but I graduated because I have an Asian parent, and my mom would have just ripped my head open if I didn't have a
Yeah.
diploma. You know how it is. So, but and like that's a reasonable thing to culturally want, but I have a lot of other thoughts about education in general. Like a lot of thoughts about education. I think apprenticeship should be brought back. I think technical
Yeah.
should be brought back. I think instead of
Definitely.
these big like corporatized colleges that offer a bunch of different majors, we should have like I don't know, when people want to train as pilots, they go to flight school. It's like a specified school that only trains for this one skill. So why don't they have like only lawyer school, or only like people who train to do welding and stuff? And technical schools definitely should be brought back, because that's been a neglected sector of society or in education for a long time. I'm not going to go on too much about this, but back to art school. um I I think it helped me, though it also wasted a lot of my time, especially during the first year and a half or so, because it definitely felt like they just wanted my money, because clearly I could draw. Why was I taking like drawing two, and
Mhm.
why was I taking all these basic classes and like color theory? And it wasn't like advanced color theory, because it's like, well, I was still 17. There are things I don't know about color, but they
Right.
weren't teaching me that. It was like very, very basic stuff. Like if you mix red and blue, you get purple. Like, whoa, really? I didn't know. I didn't learn that when I was 5. So that was really frustrating. And I remember when I was a freshman, I was sitting in the computer lab all the time and just drawing, working on my portfolio and looking at what the seniors in there who are working on their portfolios are doing and trying to copy them, because I learned more from doing that than in the classes, because all the classes were so basic. And that was really frustrating. But after about like midway through sophomore year, and especially like junior and senior year, I learned a lot then, especially in terms of visual storytelling. And I had one really good writing class that sort of was where I learned like the foundations of writing. So we did have writing classes, but there was only one where I
Yeah.
really learned anything. And actually it was a grad level class. Like they didn't have like hard really in-depth undergrad writing classes. We had one undergrad writing class, and it was literally stories have a beginning, middle, and end. Read the screenwriting book. So I was like, but I need to know more than that. So I think for me, and I was fortunate enough. I do want to say I had a scholarship, so I didn't have to like go into crazy debt to go to art school. But for people who are asking, is art school worth it? I say it depends on your situation, and in general, I would say no. I would say. I'm a huge proponent of getting an apprenticeship and learning on the job, especially for arts. And right now, you can learn programs and get accreditations for like all these programs online. You can go to a lot of online courses, and all these resources are all over the internet, and they're free to use. Or you can go through, like, I don't know, Nomon is probably still doing stuff. That's a big one if you're into concept art and doing visual effects, because I was thinking of doing that for a while, and Nomon's a big resource for that. And you can find a lot of this stuff all over the place. So in general, I think for the price, our school is not worth it anymore.
Yeah, I agree. So I actually taught design classes at universities for about 10 years. And so when I was originally in art school, it was about 10 years before you, in the mid 90s. And, it was a very different world where you didn't know what you didn't know. The internet was just coming out. And so you kind of assumed that the professors knew everything. But like I used to draw comics when I was in high school. My anatomy was pretty good, and I could put people in all sorts of cool poses. I understood 1, 2, and 3-point perspectives, but I never understood how to put the two together. You know, sometimes I would get lucky and come up with an amazing piece, but I couldn't do it consistently. And like nobody at the school could really explain it. And then I think that too, there was too much, not politics in the way that there are American politics these days, but there was a lot of politics within the art world. Like, oh, why do you want to draw comics? That's so low. That's like, you know, the McDonald's of the art world. And so you'd have all these weird things. But as I started to teach and I went on in more of the graphic design and web design stuff, there's really no reason to pay that much money. You know, like I had Frankie B. Washington on once, and he mentioned a school, I think was in Delaware, that they function more like a trade school for artists. It was like, oh, you know, that's, if you got to go to a school, that's the one you want to go to.
Right.
I think the live figure drawing classes are worth it, but you can just audit some community college classes for that.
Yeah, you can find places to do live figure drawing that aren't art school. You know, there were like small, not like college art schools, but in Atlanta there was, when we wanted to do figure drawing and there weren't any open in our college, there were, you know, people would organize like small studios, artist studios, or like would organize figure drawing all around town, and sometimes back rooms of bars and stuff, and you can find that everywhere. So what it always struck me that the money you pay for your education should be proportionate to what a person should be expected to make after they graduate, and for art it's completely imbalanced. Like, why are you paying $40,000 a year? It's probably more now, for an art education, when most people coming out of art school barely make 20,000 or less, or they just like end up working in Starbucks. Like it has to be reasonably priced, and it's I don't know. I feel like with the school I went to a school with, it was a huge art school. It's SCAD. Sure, a lot of people know about it. It has a lot of majors that, you know, I can understand why the architecture program costs that much, or why the industrial design program costs that much, but then the price doesn't change that much for majors like comics, and it's like, we're not gonna make that much money. And we're like, I don't know, the fine arts kids were all like rich kids who were just, you know, wanted to throw paint at a wall and shit, but so they're different. But yeah, for some majors it was not proportionate to the money that you expected to make, and that factors. But part of that problem is also comics are ridiculously underpaid, and I also have a lot of thoughts about that, but that's a different issue. Yeah, I don't think art school is a viable thing in this day and age anymore. You really don't need it. And also, this other thing, nobody cares about your degree from art school. Like, nobody. And I would say, if I worked for gaming companies and they like it that I have a BA, but at the end of the day, it's your portfolio. And I'm pretty sure that if I didn't have the diploma, it was like some college. I had some art school and my portfolio is good enough. And, you know, because I was working, I already had work experience before I graduated. And if you have work experience, that's more important than a degree. If you have a good portfolio, that's more important than a degree. So in art, that's what matters.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that too, you know, a lot of the other professors who I was working with, they had some work experience, but most of their work experience had been, so we're talking like late 90s, early 2000s. Most of their work experience had been in like the 70s and 80s, you know, and they weren't really, they hadn't really done a whole lot since. So I thought, you know, it's like your dad giving you advice on how to get a job. Like, well, just go in and talk to the manager. It'll be fine. But, you know, they didn't seem to understand how the world worked then. And I seriously question if they understand how the world works now, where, you know, if you want to be in art, you really have to build your own brand and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. I think I was lucky enough at SCAD at the time. Most of my professors were either working, taking small jobs in industry and teaching, or they had, they were freshly out of working in comics, and they weren't like these ancient withered creatures who were from the 1600s, and they were like, they knew what the current state of the industry was. I had a couple of professors that kind of had like really didn't know what was going on, and were really old fashioned, and it was frustrating. But mostly they were professors who were very helpful, and they knew the landscape. But especially with art, and especially with comics, the industry is changing so fast. I don't know if something like standardized education and university education is right for it, right? Because it you can write a course for these are the things you need to learn for comics, for a comics major, but within half a year it's outdated. Within half a year, like especially right now, the industry is going through some really huge changes. In case people haven't noticed, like how do you teach someone to be successful in this landscape? I don't know.
Yeah. So if there are people out there who want to get into art, especially for comics or games or whatnot, do you have any suggestions for sources, online courses or whatnot?
Oh boy, I regret not actually having an answer for that, because I've been asked that before. And I never took online courses. I know they exist. And I have friends who, is like I said, I was thinking of going into concept art for a while, and I had friends who would take Nomon courses, and that's the main one that I know of. Though if you go on ArtStation, and you'll find a lot of like tutorials and stuff, and on Gumroad there are a lot of professional artists there are a lot of professional artists who do their own courses, and on YouTube as well, tutorials and stuff. So and I taught myself a lot of things that way, and that's how my friends who do concept art still continue to learn nowadays. So that's the main pointer I would give. Unfortunately for comics, I don't think there's an equivalent. I can recommend books to read. Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics books. Those are like the Comics 101. That's like the breakthrough book where these are the basics. This is how you learn what's underneath that. What's comics are more than just making pretty drawings. And you can draw well, you can write a story, you write a good story, but how do you put them together? And that book is a really good introduction to that. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not really that many resources for comic stuff. You kind of just have to like practice a lot and learn. But I would say, go on YouTube, ArtStation. There's resources there. That's a terrible answer. Yeah, I tell people that there are these resources, but the way I learned was not
you
very
already know
conventional.
It,
so. But I have like a weird way of learning. I don't like taking courses, which is also my problem with college. Which is okay. It was I did good in college, but I think it's because I could draw well enough that it's fine if I was like, and it's art school. It's not about like following the rules so much. This is why I did terrible in high school and middle school, and in especially in Taiwan, because I have problems like following the rules. But yeah. Anyways.
So yeah, let me just throw a few out there if anybody's interested. So first, we have Trent Kuenga. I think I pronounced that name right. He's publishing Creed with All Caps Comics right now. He's got a bunch of really nice videos on Gumroad. But for me, some of the best I've seen are, there's a guy, Proco. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know Proco.
Okay, yeah. So he's got a bunch of classes. You can buy them individually, and they're like set up, different things like anatomy and figure drawing and some on shading and whatnot. Those are pretty good, and they're not terribly expensive. And then one guy I really like, his name is Mark Burnett. He was one of the Blizzard guys back in the World of Warcraft days, and I think he did some other things for them. But he's come up with a whole, I think it's like 6-semester educational program where you download the videos, you practice up, and then he's got a live stream every week where you submit your work to him, and he'll go and he'll critique your work. And to me, the critique is one of the main things that you miss out on if you don't go to an art school. Because you really need someone or some people, preferably someone who's a little more advanced than you, and then a group of peers who can sort of pick through your work. And in my opinion, the more brutal they can be, the better it is for you.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I was trying to scroll through my YouTube subscriptions, but I have like about 10,000, so I can't find. There's a couple of other artists that I subscribe to. I think Chris Oatley, he did more animation stuff, and he has a YouTube channel, and he posts tutorials and stuff as well, so that's a good one. Mohammed Agbadi is another artist I
He's
subscribe to. Yeah, he's really good.
I think he's doing a few classes for Proco right now, too.
Okay.
He does have some of his own.
Yeah, they have been doing collaborations. Yeah, I think the way art school benefited me was visual storytelling was, that's the main skill I learned, but in general, the main benefit I took away from art school was the connections, was that I got to meet other artists and meet people that were currently in the industry, because they would have, alumni who are working comic artists come and like do demos and talk to us about working professionally. And one of my professors got me an internship at a gaming company. Like the connections were the most valuable thing. Though I do think that's going to art school is not the only way to make connections, but for me that was really useful, especially because I was coming from overseas. But I know people who they just been posting their work on DeviantArt since they're like 14, and they have like, they found a group of artists who they form a critique group, and they're learning that way. But yeah, critique is the most important thing, definitely. It's hard if you can't find people to give you honest critique, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things about doing it all online. Because I've definitely seen a lot of people out there who clearly aren't used to getting that kind of critique too, and they take it real personally. Whereas like, once you go through it in real life a few times, you're like, yeah, that did suck. And then you can move on and make something better.
Oh yeah. Just don't take it personally.
So talking about doing well at business, the last time you were on, you had mentioned you were going to look into different markets for Feindish. Has anything come up with either looking in getting it translated into Japanese or into at least traditional Mandarin for the Taiwanese market?
Oh yeah, I have a Japanese translation now.
Awesome.
And actually, the translator worked way faster than I was expecting, so I have to letter it. The translation is done. I haven't lettered it because I've been in production hell trying to get the book printed, and I haven't had time to letter it yet. But yeah, I have actually found someone to do the translation. I don't know much Japanese, but I know a little bit, and from what I can tell, it looks great. And I can't wait to put it out there and just, I'm not like, it's something that I'm hoping to build. I'm not like, ooh, this, I can like just break into a market if I have a translation. I'm not expecting anything, but I think I'm very excited to to start building something like brick by brick. And I think I'll continue to do this for book 2 and all the rest of these books that I put out, because it's very feasible with, you know, the like a translation fee is not that much if you have a successful crowdfunding campaign. And yeah, I'm very excited.
So what's your opinion of the market for American comics, especially indie comics in East Asia, especially those indie comics that are not Cape and Cowl?
You know, I haven't really tested this out that much. So I was in Taiwan until 2019, and so, you know, kind of recent-ish. And I did notice that when I moved here for college, I stayed for a few years, and I moved back around 2016, and then stayed, and then moved back. I was moving back and forth. But what I did notice was that because of the MCU, mainstream, or, you know, Marvel and DC comics, there was a lot more interest for superhero stuff in Asia for that at the time, at least in 2019. I don't know about now though, because especially after things have wrapped up and after Endgame, I'm not sure what the vibes are now. But definitely, I noticed that because of the success of the MCU, there was a lot more interest in like these Western stuff. Because when I was growing up in like the early 2000s, there was almost nothing.
Yeah.
Like nobody, I didn't know Spider-Man was still running until like I came to America and I came to art school. You know, I was like, oh, you have a sequential art program. I wonder what that's for. They don't make comics anymore. I didn't know, because we don't get American comics in Asia. There was none of it. It was all manga. So, but it's been more internationalized now. We get more like Western stuff in Asia. But yeah, as far as indie comics go, I specifically, you know, Feindish, my comic is very much geared for primarily American audience. So I have thought about, you know, of course I want to expand internationally, but my audience is primarily American and European. But I did show some of the art at an exhibit in Hong Kong, which it's complicated because it's during COVID, so I wasn't actually there, but I knew a friend who was in art school in Hong Kong, and they put together an exhibit, so it was really cool. But people really liked it, so just from the art, so that's good to hear. And I don't know, like, because I haven't shown any of the translations, and I haven't like told anybody the story in Chinese or anything yet, you know. But I would think that, and manga kind of proves it, a good story is a good story. And that connects with all people.
Yeah, I think so too. I sent a bunch of books over to some family in Taiwan, and they really liked a lot of the Alterna comic stuff. There was the boy, I think, is like 11, 12, and then there's a girl who's like 7, 8. You know, she liked some of the more kiddie stuff. He really liked the Gods and Gears series, and they both enjoyed Bigfoot Bill. I think they're, you know, Capes and Cowls has never really resonated very much with people over in Asia. So, I mean, yeah, there's some MCU stuff, but I don't see that as ever really selling. But I think a lot of the indie stuff would sell better. Generally, the stories tend to be a lot stronger, which arguably is more important to readers in Asia. I mean, there's a lot that's, you know, just trash, but to me, I think something with an art style that's friendly, but friendly to readers over there, but not quite manga, I think can do quite well under the right circumstances. Plus, they have a huge built-in market with all like the manga kisa, the manga cafes. Like they have to have so much stuff on the shelves. It seems like somebody is going to form a company that's somewhat like Funimation was, where they're going to take just a bunch of indie books and sell them as, you know, like hey, Japan, we promise you X number of new books that you can put in your own foreign section every month.
Is this a business venture, sir?
I wish. You know, if it wasn't for COVID and I could get my butt back there, I would consider doing that.
I know. No, freaking tell me about it. I was planning on going back. Well, 2 years now. I was gonna go back 2 years. I'm very unhappy about it because I want to go back for Chinese New Year's.
Oh yeah.
It's very Darn this lockdown shit. But anyhow, yeah, I think the audience in Asia definitely goes for something different. And I think, good stories resonate with everybody, but it's more about the percentage. Like there's tendencies because a good story, you'll find an audience everywhere, but just about like which culture, which region likes it a little more. And each region has their genre preferences. And I think in Europe and in America, people would buy a book for cool art. I don't think they really do that in Asia. They want like quick, fun entertainment, and they buy comics much more strictly for the story. You can have like shit art like Attack on Titan, and they'd still buy it. So I find that very curious. And manga, what they're used to is also sort of they're more open to light entertainment as well, like fun light short stories, though it doesn't have to be like that. There are a lot of manga that are like huge arcing epics, so it's not like you have to go for like light entertainment. But I'm just saying there's a lot more of that. I almost feel bad that I don't have results from Fiendish to show here, but again, I don't think like those results would come in quickly, but I do have hopes about expanding overseas, especially obviously I'm from Taiwan. I want to have a Mandarin version as well. I'm hoping that the fact that I have like kind of a mixed style just naturally that'll help. I think that would help with the Asian market because they're already used to manga. I know people like my art style there. That's all I know so far.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because you can see a manga influence, but I wouldn't say it's manga. It's like friendly to the people who like manga. It's not so out there. They're like, what the F is this? But
I have shown American comics to. Well, I showed what was it? I showed DMZ. Do you know that? Was it an Image book or was it IDW book? But I showed that and I showed Scalped. There was a while I was really into DMZ and I love Scalped. And I brought a couple copies of those to Taiwan once when I was back. It was years ago. It was during college, and I showed some friends there, and they're practicing their English, so they borrowed it, and their feedback was there's so much to read and the expressions are so hard to read because they're used to like really expressive faces and less text on the page. So it's about like having a friendly format as well. So it's the whole like way to tell a story is different. So you have to like accommodate that. And I think there's a way to do that. I actually actively try to do that with my work on Fiendish, like with the visual storytelling. It's not just because I kind of have again a mixed style east and west, but with the visual storytelling I try to be very conscious about let me not go too much for like standard American storytelling. Well, I wouldn't say standard, but like the kind of storytelling that they teach in a lot of comic schools here that is derived from superhero comics is kind of rushed. Honestly, it's just about getting through the plot points and there's a lot of text on a page and let's just get through what needs to be said. And I was never comfortable with that because that's not what I was used to, but I also don't think it's a comfortable reading experience. And I think that kind of storytelling developed because they only had 20 pages and they had to just cram everything into 20 pages. But that's not the model in either Europe or Asia. They have like as many pages as they want. So, and I think that's a better way to do comics, period. So I'm trying to do that with Fiendish, and I don't rush things, I don't like put page restrictions on if I think a scene needs to breathe, I'll let it breathe. So I'm definitely thinking internationally in that regard.
Yeah, I think too part of the problem for American comics is that it was always seen as cheap entertainment for children, And in the 80s and early 90s, you sort of see it trying to like reach up, and then, okay, so we're not for like 12-year-olds anymore. Now we're for 19-year-olds, you know, but it never really sort of caught on. So and I think that's one of the reasons too. They're like, you know, who cares if if the scene doesn't work? You know, it's 8-year-olds, they won't notice. Whereas in Asia, you know, you could easily see a 45-year-old salaryman riding train to work, reading his manga.
Oh yeah, it's much more just part of society, at least in Japan and Singapore and Taiwan and Hong Kong as well, but especially in just like Eastern Asia and Korea too. It's just accepted as part of daily life. And that's what I don't, yeah, I had a lot of trouble getting this across to a lot of Americans when I first came to America. I had so many questions like, why I knew that American comics used to be on, convenience store spinner racks and everything. I was like, why isn't that happening anymore? Because where I come from, every 7-Eleven had a rack of manga. And there are 7-Elevens everywhere, by the way. Yeah. Everywhere. I can walk 10 steps and go from one 7-Eleven to another 7-Eleven. And they so permeated society. And like there are tons of products for it everywhere, but it was just widely available. And I had so many questions about why it wasn't the same in America, because I love this medium. I think it's an awesome medium, and I think it just felt like they were intentionally not promoting like all this talent and all this potential that was just sitting around. And there weren't really any avenues, especially for indie creators, when I was in college. Thankfully now with crowdfunding that's changed. But it was all about, you do superheroes or bust back then.
Yeah, back when you were in college, because there were a lot in the 80s, and there were a lot more comic shops, and they most of them had huge indie sections, even some naughty sections in the back. But
can't imagine.
Well, it's quite disturbing when you're 13 and you're seeing adults walking out of the porno section of a comic store. But
I know we had that in those manga libraries in Taiwan.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it never bothered me at all. I don't know.
Hang out in the Midwest a little bit, and you'll see.
Okay, it's probably like people are being creepy about it. I think in Asia, people are more like reserved. They don't like try to creep you out. But yeah.
But that's one of the things. Back in the 70s, Marvel made a deal with I think it's Toei has Godzilla, and they published an Avengers versus Godzilla book. And Toei was like, "Oh, great! We're gonna get more viewership in America." And Marvel came back, and they're like, "Hey, our book sold 300,000, right?" Which even back then in the U.S., like 300,000 is a pretty good sales number. And Toei was like, "Oh, that's it?" They're like, "Our manga regularly sells over 1 million copies."
Oh my gosh!
So that's one reason I think, I don't think foreign comics are ever going to be the biggest stars in Japan or in Taiwan, but there's so much money. If you had like 0.25% of the buyers who do like this foreign stuff, that's a ton of money. That's really good pay for just translating the stuff you already made.
Yeah, I think, probably just because of cultural taste and understanding the nuances of culture, it's the biggest thing in Japan will always be something by a Japanese person. But I can see an indie book from the West hitting great success there if it just has the right vibe, because comics are comics and a lot of people love comics over there. But yeah, I think what American comics greatly crippled itself because of the Comics Code Authority. It did it to itself. It was just like, oh, censorship? Okay, let me just shoot myself in the foot. And oh, why do we sell so many less of their, like, the numbers that they're happy with selling here? It's just embarrassing for Japanese comics or even European comics. Like they never censored themselves, never held their own medium back. And it's a pity we did that here.
I think it's even worse than that, because as comics were starting to get out from under the Comics Code Authority, what you saw in the late 70s is somehow all the creative people, the really talented ones, went to work in the superhero comics. Because before, there were a lot of companies, they made westerns and war stories, and even at the big two, they had that kind of stuff. But what happened throughout the 80s is comics started to take themselves a little bit seriously, and you had, your Frank Millers and your Neil Gaimans and Alan Moores and everything. But it was all in the context of the superhero stuff. So by the 90s, when Image, became the big new thing, you couldn't get these other kinds of comics anymore. And in my opinion, that and then coupled with the direct market, that's what shot them in the foot. That's when things, like, from a slow decline, like right off the cliff.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like they just did everything they could to not to like restrain creativity or make it hard for someone with an original idea to make a living if they want to make it a comic. It's like they and I felt that coming out of college, because and that's the only reason I work for Marvel. It's never like a big dream of mine to work for Marvel. I don't give a shit. I didn't grow up with them. But like it was a way to pay rent and do comics. And I was like, I would rather be doing comics and in a genre that I wasn't particularly interested in, and than being a corporate art monkey, because that was my other option at the time. But it's not perfect, and I don't know, I can't express how amazing crowdfunding has been for comics and for creativity and for this medium. Like, look at all this talent that has just been sitting there and has been suppressed because what the established industry was in America was not open to them. It wasn't allowing them any space.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. And speaking of your art style, tomorrow you are going to be on Red Valkyrie's channel. You're going to have some pieces up for auction. Is there anything you can give us a quick preview of what you're selling, or?
I wait for the Mastum things. Wait, where are my Post-its?
Do you have it on computer? You could share the screen.
Well, we're talking about no. It's all traditional art. So
okay.
Hold on, I have some stuff that's I'd like to draw some pretty uncensored stuff for these art auctions, and because it's fun. I can show this. This was a piece that I did for. Oh, it's not showing clearly. For Fragtober on Dan Frega's channel, and it's there we go. It's after Burning Rhapsody's Frankenstein. This was actually the live drawing was only 1 hour. I think this was 1 hour 50 minutes, but I did touch it up a little afterwards. I added the white afterwards, so I added some white out for these effects and stuff. But yeah, so I think
was only 1 hour and 15 minutes.
I think total is just like right 1 hour and 40 minutes because I worked on it a little more afterwards. Yeah, but so it's a speed drawing challenge, and there's also this darkness piece, which is also for Fragtober. Yeah, and it's just it's like a little over 1 hour, and I touched it up afterwards, so about 1 hour 30 minutes total for this one. Yep. Oh, and what else?
Cool.
I have a deku. I just did a deku. I'm really proud of this. I did this for my Patreon because I do like monthly fan art on my Patreon. So here you go.
Oh, I didn't realize you had a Patreon.
Yeah, I do. So it's just I post like behind the scenes stuff for my comic, and I do like the monthly fan art for so like $5 and up patrons can vote for fan art, and I draw something every month. So it's a way to keep me like drawing traditionally and help me like force myself to practice, honestly, because otherwise I just be doing my comic and I don't like do studies or practice anything else. So I have this, and I'm sorry, did you want me to just like sit here and show and tell all of these? Because
well, I mean, it's up to you. Do you have a link for the stream, or we can throw it in the chat now, or I can get it later. I'll put it in the description for the video.
Okay, well, the link is on my Twitter. I just tweeted it out. but I have the link. Yeah, I'll post it in the private.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tomorrow at 11 a.m. So
Eastern, right?
Yeah, Eastern. So it starts at 11. It should end around 2, and everyone goes. The auction runs in 4-hour slots. So all of Saturday and Sunday it'll be for like 11 to 2, and then like I think 2 more slots in the afternoon. So it's kind of like it starts at 11 and runs to like 9 or 10 p.m. So go over to Red Valkyrie's channel, and all of this weekend you're gonna have some juicy art things to nab at an auction. And I think I can show this if I cover her butt.
Okay.
Are you okay? There's nothing technically showing. Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to get your channel struck, but there you go. There's this another one. Yeah.
And she's from Feindish, right? Maybe.
He's not a specific character from Feindish, though. Like there's kind of the tentacly motif and like the pointy-eared race that is from Feindish, but it's not a specific character. I just realized like this is a theme I really like drawing. Like it's a lot of fun to draw, like pretty girls and these weird tentacle things. So I mean, it's not like any weird anime shit for anybody who's like thinking that, but there's definitely like some Fiendish influence in there. Yeah, so if you want to nab that, come tomorrow to Red Valkyrie's channel.
So quick Fiendish update. So there have been printer problems.
Oh yes, there are.
But now I will point out that the black and white version did come out a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's been a couple months.
So there's proof of life.
Oh yeah, I wanted to fulfill something on time, and I was like, because I set the original fulfillment date for what I was, like what I was expecting to be able to do. And because when I launched the campaign, I was expecting this to be just a grayscale book. So that's the mode by which I set the original fulfillment date. And we didn't decide to color it until halfway through the campaign. And there were 60 pages for Nick, my colorist, to go through and color. It's a lot. So that's why like the color book, the default book, it was a stretch goal. People asked for the book to be in color, and I actually put up the grayscale tier after that because a lot of people were also asking for a grayscale book, but because then I had 2 versions of the book. It wasn't originally like that, but I decided, since it was originally going to be a grayscale book and I was going to fulfill on this day in September, so I was like, I'm going to fulfill it in September. So the grayscale books are printed already, and they started fulfilling in September, and those ship right away. The color books, we've ran into printer troubles, and basically all the work is done and has been done for weeks, but my printer has been very uncommunicative with me, and I've been forced to hunt for a new printer, which I've been doing all of this week. But things are looking up. I'm talking to 2 people who are able to do the things that my original printer told me last minute they couldn't do. And so that's good. I'm just kind of waiting for like a timeline and like a production timeline. And when I get that news back, which would be early next week, I'm going to update everybody on the Indiegogo page.
Awesome. So then shouldn't be too much longer.
Like all the work is done. I am so irritated. I want this book in my hands. You don't understand how irritated I am. Like I need to ship these books out, and I just want them to be printed. But these printers are just, there's a paper shortage, but the problems we're having is not just because of that. It's literally just communication problems. Like one of the stretch goals was for Spot UV to be on the cover, and they took, they were very slow with communication, and so they didn't get, they were not getting proof to me and all this stuff where I got the proof done, but it was like they were taking like 2 days to answer my messages. But the original printer told me they couldn't do Spot UV, and my backers asked for Spot UV. So that was the issue we're running into. I forgot what your question was because I'm so angry.
So I know you're working on Fiendish 2, the second volume.
Yes, I am.
So how is that going? When should people be on the lookout for that? More or less. I mean, I'm sure you don't have a launch date, and you'll definitely be on a better channel to launch it. But
No.
but like when ish do you think you'll be ready to hit that?
I'd like to have the sign up towards the end of this month.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's just a sign up. It's not. I'm not launching a campaign yet, but I've been working. I've been finishing pages for it. The main obstacle is I need to finish the cover for it, and like 2 more pages that I really want to show, and I'm gonna see if Nick can color a couple of pages just to show it on the sign up page and stuff. But yeah, I was hoping to have the cover done earlier, but I went back and I've been editing the layouts and pencils because it's a very character development heavy chapter, and like honestly that's the hardest thing in comics. Like fight scenes are very malleable, like they're fun to do and they have their own challenges, but like the first chapter was there was kind of stuff going on in the background, but most of what was going on in the foreground was it was like a very straightforward action filled chapter. So chapter 2 is much more about there's a lot more talking scenes, and we're trying I'm showing people who the characters are. So that stuff you have to do it right, and I want to do it right, so I've been editing the storytelling, and that's been taking I went back and did that, so that's been taking longer. But anyhow, I mean, I haven't like set a launch date or anything yet, so that's good because I'm not letting anybody down. But I am working on it. If you head over to my channel, I show my work on chapter 2, every couple of weeks. So I'm always if you want a sneak peek at that stuff, you can come over.
And so Feindish is your main project, your baby. Are there any other sort of like skunk work projects that you think you want to like? Do you ever feel that I need a little break from Feindish? I need to do something different genre or whatnot? No. Pathfinder takes care of all that. Okay.
Kind of, yeah. Really, I mean, I'm serious. Like my creative outlet when I need to change things up. Like sometimes I never get tired of working on Fiendish. Like I really like this project.
That's good. That's
good. Like I'm thinking about it all the freaking time. Like it's no, I don't need to like get in the mood to work on this. When I'm doing other things, I'm actively suppressing myself from working on this comic. That's how bad it is. But sometimes it's like when you're too close to the work, you stop being able to see the flaws. I do like when I want to step back from it just to give myself some breathing room and to be able to like look at things for a more distant objective view. With writing and art, that's something very important that's a like kind of a mental skill that you learn after a while. That's Pathfinder, and it's for like storytelling wise, Pathfinder fills that gap for me. And I take commissions. I'm doing some art for other people's campaigns on and off, so that art, like with drawing wise, that fills that gap for me when I need to get away and like kind of experiment with doing something else. But yeah, awesome. Feindish is like my main thing, and I've told people I have some other story ideas, but I think like mainly, I don't know, it's just the story of Feindish and building the world around it. That is most of what I think that's most of that satisfies most of my like creative needs. And sometimes I'll come up with another story idea, and I'll start thinking about if I can explore this other story, but then I realize this is something that I'm already doing in Feindish, so that's mostly what I'm running into. I do have a sci-fi story idea. I've been telling people that it's something that I kind of doodle on and off, but that's not something I'm working on actively, and that's further down the line. Yeah.
Can you see yourself writing other things in the Feindish universe, but not connected with the Feindish story? So now you're doing all this world building. Do you find that it's a fertile place for other things?
Probably. I I haven't really like actively thought about that because Feindish is the story about these characters, like the characters that are driving the story. So and the conflict that they're in, that's what I built the world around. But sure, I could see, you know, it is a whole world. There are opportunities to explore more of it, but that's not, I haven't like actively written anything.
Way out in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I do anything, it would be like a side character, or I'd explore a theme, like a side theme that was a theme that was like a secondary theme from Fiendish, but make it focus more on it and explore it as a main theme and in a different location of the world. That's something that I might do. But you know, I don't want to distract myself too much, and I'm very much focused on that because it's I want to finish what I do, and that's very important for me. So I think until I, you know, have this project finished, like I don't want to be thinking too much about what else I could be doing because this is important to me.
Well, that makes sense. All right, so I know you've got a very busy day tomorrow. I'm sure you're getting all the artwork together and everything. Any last thoughts? Any last words of wisdom? Oh, and geez, I
Where's the
completely forgot.
wisdom?
Now that I'm thinking about it real quick, is if people wanted to pick up Fiendish, is there still time?
If you sorry, if what?
If people want to purchase Fiendish, if they haven't, is there still time?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. It's I will keep this campaign up until the chapter 2 sign up goes up. So you'll have a few more weeks. But I don't want to yeah, I don't want to be running to sign up and this campaign at the
At the
same
same
time.
time, yeah.
And you know, obviously when chapter 2 launches, I will have chapter 1 available as well. So you'll have a couple more weeks.
All right. Yeah. So guys, don't miss this one. You definitely want to get it while you can.
Yes, monsters, magic, and mystery. Yeah, you love it.
And your Pathfinder game is every other week, I think, or is it just when you guys can schedule it?
Oh, it's every other week. So
It's every other week.
we
Okay.
played last Sunday, so our next game is going to be next Sunday, and it's always Sundays at 1 p.m. EST, and also on my channel. So my channel is I stream every Wednesday, and it kind of alternates. If I have a guest, then I promote their work. If I don't have a guest, then I do like a drawing stream.
Mm-hmm.
But every Wednesday at 8 p.m. EST, I do a stream, and then every other Sunday we do Pathfinder.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So everyone, check out RENIE Draws. Fantastic YouTube channel. Fiendish still on Indiegogo, and also you have the RENIE Draws website where you can find out about past works.
Oh God! I pulled this up on my last stream, and then I realized I haven't updated this in so long. But yes, I do have a website as well. You know, the more important thing is the Fiendish website, which I'm always updating.
All right.
Yeah. So I have fiendishcomic.com is the website for my comic, and the idea is the story is in the comics. If you want the story, and like the main product of course is the actual physical comic books, but I tell the story in a way that is very naturalistic, where the world, like I don't explain the world to you, the characters just reference things because they live in this world. Why would they over explain things in text blocks to the reader? But if you want to find out more about the context of the setting or more about the world building, the website is kind of the central base for all that. So as you can see, I have kind of a species page, a world map. I have a language because I built a language for this comic because I'm a little crazy, and I have a pantheon. And honestly, there's a lot of pages I'm still holding back. I don't even have the magic system up yet, but this is a website that's going to be like a pretty important supplement to the comic. So you guys should definitely check it out if you're interested.
All right. So thank you very much for everyone stopping by. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up in the comment section. Feel free Leave some comments, leave some questions. Is there anybody else you'd like to see on the channel? Subscribe, and we'll be back soon.
Bye.
It's going to end.